Good afternoon or evening or morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the day one session of the 5th Experts Workshop of the Organization of World Heritage Cities Asia Pacific Regional Secretariat. My name is Hyeonji Oh, the Regional Coordinator of OWHC-AP, and I would be today's facilitator for the session. Please let me introduce our team. Mr. Dae-sik Kim, he is the team leader of the OWHC-AP, and he is the one who directs all programs and projects of the Secretariat. And let me introduce Ms. Young Lee, Program Specialist of OWHC-AP. She is in charge of all PR projects, including Heritage Digital Gallery. Before we start, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for all of you to participate in this workshop with such a short notice. As our World Heritage Cities are facing biggest challenge, COVID-19, I thought it is our mission to have an open discussion about this pandemic and its impact to our World Heritage Cities. In that regard, we have set the topic of workshop as New Normal Life in World Heritage Cities of Asia Pacific, and today's session will be discussing about the heritage and local community engagement in era of COVID-19, including 3 city reports from our sincere member cities. Before we get started, let us have a moment for the congratulatory remarks from Mr. Nakyoung Joo, the Mayor of Gyeongju, who is an organizer and supporter for this event.
Distinguished experts and city representatives, I am Joo Nakyoung, Mayor of Gyeongju City, in charge of Regional Secretariat of OWHC-AP. I would like to welcome you with great pleasure on this wonderful afternoon. I hope all of you are doing well in the era of COVID-19. Before I go any further, I wish to express my deepest gratitude to everyone in this workshop for accepting our invitation. We stand here today under a common goal and objective, our affection toward heritage. As a World Heritage City, it is essential to understand how to manage and live with our given legacy. Not only is this workshop a dialogue and an open floor of debate between distinguished experts, but also a channel for member cities to accumulate our experiences regarding the heritage in general. Moreover, since the pandemic led with multiple fields influencing residents, visitors, and heritage itself, it is believed that forming an open discussion to win out this pandemic is our essential task as a World Heritage City. For a better understanding, precise and sharp analysis is fundamental, and it would be highly difficult for a municipal government to gain such information without the advice and assessment of our experts. I hope that the following days of the OWHC-AP Experts Workshop would last among us as a token of good friendship, partnership, and cooperation. Thank you for being with us here for this workshop, and I hope to see you in person in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now I'd like to invite Mrs. Minaidis, the Interim Secretary General of OWHC, for remarks and report presentation of OWHC Network and COVID-19.
First, it is with great pleasure that I find myself once again among representatives of our member cities of the Asia-Pacific region and the invited experts who together will provide the inspiration for the way forward in the quest for a viable new normal in World Heritage cities in the Asia-Pacific region. I take this opportunity to congratulate the OWHC Asia-Pacific Regional Secretariat and its mayor for its continuous and successful efforts to address the most relevant issues that confront our member cities. This is all the more important now in these challenging times. The OWHC World Congress in Arequipa, Peru, in 2015, dealt with resilience. The then chief of the Outreach and Advocacy section of the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction made the remark, "The disaster that will strike next is not one we're preparing for." A year and a half ago, at the OWHC World Congress held in Krakow, Poland, our theme focused on heritage and tourism and the shared responsibilities of local communities and visitors. Discussions centered on the need to preserve the local character of our historic cities, to limit gentrification, to instill respect for heritage in locals and visitors, as well as how to lessen the impact of cruise tourism. However, the topic that generated the most interest was over-tourism, how times have changed. Today, in a nearly complete and unexpected reversal, efforts are now focused on tourism recovery, rejuvenation, renewal, and resiliency. Indeed, the perceptions of urban challenges and strategies have changed significantly and suddenly, calling on our cities to redefine their actions to achieve greater resilience. By understanding urban resilience as the degree of flexibility with which cities can respond to change, World Heritage Cities can indeed be seen as models of resilience in the face of threats from natural or health risks and from social, political, or economic crises. Although World Heritage Cities are highly vulnerable, they have the assets to weather the worst situations because they can learn from their past to develop future actions. In recent months, World Heritage Cities, with their specific and common issues, have demonstrated resilience and shared with each other the knowledge and expertise they have gathered since the beginning of the pandemic. While many communities are facing an unprecedented crisis, understanding the challenges encountered and the intrinsic knowledge present in each World Heritage City is crucial to ensure its conservation and preserve its inhabitants' quality of life. These projects were presented as part of an OWHC campaign that aimed to identify numerous initiatives from its member cities in response to the COVID-19 crisis. Our member cities have demonstrated that World Heritage Cities and their communities can successfully combat this crisis and become stronger than ever. Our cities are resilient, and they have proven many times in the past decades and centuries that they can face major challenges and adapt to new realities. It is these new realities that must first be clearly defined and understood in order to advance effective strategies and policies. I am confident that the deliberations of today and tomorrow will bring us closer to achieving our objectives, which could be expressed using the theme of this year's edition of the OWHC Youth Video Competition: a new beginning, a new vision, a new city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee, for your congratulatory remarks and some projects for 2021. It's really good to know the situation of our member cities and in times of COVID-19 and current programs and projects of OWHC.
All right, here we are. So just a few words about the 2021 World Congress. It will be, as you know, in Quebec City, Canada. We have changed the dates. It was originally, if you recall, from June 2nd to the 5th. But due to the COVID era, we decided that it would be better, with the City of Quebec, of course, decided it would be better to postpone the Congress. And so the official dates now are from the 7th to the 11th of September, 2021, and we hope that by then we will have returned to a more normal state of affairs, and that everyone will be able to travel. But we will have in April again. We will reassess the situation, and if we see that it cannot take place in September, then we will postpone it a bit more. But for the moment, let's keep our fingers crossed that it will take place in September. Next slide. Now, what we are doing in preparation for the World Congress is to organize a series of, now they're not really webinars, there's something called a World Cafe. We will have in the different languages, the three official languages, we will have we'll have seminars on various sub-themes that we think will be used for the World Congress. And there will be meetings of about 15 people in each of these sub-themes, and our members will be invited to join. And this will be a preparatory program for the World Congress. It will help us decide really what aspects of our theme of livability in World Heritage Cities, what really is of interest to the member cities, so that we can have a very relevant meeting in Quebec. Our first one, and I actually mentioned this in my opening remarks, as you know, we have the video competition for young people between the ages of 14 to 17 and 18 to 21. And this year, the emphasis again will be, as most things are influenced by COVID, we will have the video competition where they submit, the young people submit a video of no more than 5 minutes, and the theme will be, as I mentioned, new beginning, new vision, new city. Next slide. As well, we have the Jean-Paul Lallier Prize for Heritage, which most of you know. You will be receiving an invitation to submit projects, the cities that is, for the Jean-Paul Lallier Prize. That will be January 15th. We will launch the prize. And this year we have something a little different. Not only will we have the jury members who will select the best prize, of course, but we will also have a people's choice, so that our member cities can choose which project they found most interesting or whatever. Of course, the jury selects the official prize, but we will also have a people's choice. Next slide. Then we have, as perhaps you have already known, in the past 9 months, we have on our website a section where the cities can tell us their stories, personal stories, whatever, of how they are dealing with the COVID, and it is it can be very helpful to other member cities as well. And so we would encourage everyone to submit either projects that are being done during the pandemic, ways of dealing with certain problems in the pandemic. And so this is our Tell Us Your Story. Next slide. Now here is, we want to collect, either videos or good practices on managing and enhancing urban heritage. And so we we have this section on the site where you can send in your videos or best practices or whatever to give your city more visibility and to help other cities as well. All right, next slide. And here again, these are another part of our section on COVID-19, where you are able to see what other cities are doing in this pandemic era. And again, we encourage you to share your actions and policies during this time. Now, next slide. This was an initiative in Puebla, Mexico, that has inaugurated the Jean-Paul Lallier Library. As most of you know, Jean-Paul Lallier was the mayor of Quebec who founded the organization. He had the first meeting in 1991 in Quebec. And this is the first of which we hope will be many libraries that can share books and resources on World Heritage. And it's a good way of promoting heritage within your cities. Also, we will be having a new project. It has just been, next slide, a new project that has just been approved by the board of directors, and it will be carried out in cooperation with the ICCROM, International Council of Monuments and Sites, the International Cultural Tourism Committee, whose president is our dear Fergus McLaren, and he will be helping us and guiding us in providing this new tourism toolkit for World Heritage cities. It will be, I think, a very interesting project. We'll be able to, as the project develops, because it's the very beginning, we will be informing you of how it is developing and how it can be of benefit to you. And with that, I thank you very much. Next slide. This is just our communications. This is how you can communicate with us. Thank you very much. And I look forward to now following the proceedings of the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee, for your wonderful presentation. For next, OWHC will be presenting on our programs and projects. Let me start with the regional conferences of OWHC-AP. Armed conflict, COVID-19, excessive urbanization, commercialization, and indifference. These things are too serious and too various for one World Heritage City to handle. And that is the reason why we do the regional conference. And the objectives of regional conference is to build a regional bond and to strengthen network and to develop tools and share knowledge and experience. We have diverse programs in regional conferences, which includes Experts Workshop It is to gather experts to share expertise with mayors and about the challenges of conservation in World Heritage Cities and raise awareness about crucial aspects in conserving the outstanding universal values. And we have the panel discussion is to have fruitful discussion with panels from various sectors, including industry and academia regarding the topic. And we have the case presentation where to share the successful and meaningful projects, and member cities are presenting their concluded or ongoing projects regarding the topic of conference. And this is the only project that we're doing only on OWHC-AP Regional Secretariat. It is issue presentation and consulting. This is all participating cities share their issues regarding the topic, and pre-assigned experts give consultations to suggest solution towards the issues. Next, we have the Mayor's Workshop. By analyzing and share those analyses with other member cities, participating mayors have chance to look their issues in more holistic and diverse scope. And last but not least, we have the working meeting to report the ongoing projects and to look for better cooperation for future projects of OWHC-AP. Until now, we have had 3 regional conferences, 2 in Gyeongju and 1 in Suzhou. And the 4th regional conference of OWHC were supposed to held in 2020, but because of COVID-19, it has delayed to 2022. It will be organized by OWHC-AP and hosted by Vegan the Philippines. There will be mayors and World Heritage experts, related organizations, and youth participants. Next, we have cooperative projects. There is a magazine hashtag that we are publishing to strengthen network among member cities and familiarize World Heritage cities to public. And the proposed subscribers are member cities, cooperative organization, and general publics. Until 2020, we have issued 14 volumes of hashtag, which contains news of member cities, activities conducted by OWHC-AP, articles by experts, and diverse cultures of the region. And we are writing the articles about World Heritage Cities in novel and movies. Next, we have had the photo contest. Until 2020, we have had 4 photo contests, and the latest topic was the moment of new normal life of World Heritage Cities. Until now, we have 3 photo exhibition. One in 2018, it was held in right next to Cheomseongdae Observatory, which is the World Heritage Site. And we have the photo exhibition on Krakow, Poland in World Congress, and Gyeongju, of course. And the latest photo exhibition was held in Haiko, Gyeongju for the Heritage Korea Festival. Now let us take a moment for showing our winning pieces of 2020 photo contest. Next, we have the OWHC-AP PEN Network is to make the solidarity among the network and to secure the images of World Heritage Cities and publish photo essay collections and develop the virtual cycle. These two books are a pre-published photo essay book, and with that, we are trying to make the OWHC Emergency Fund, which will be donated from the profit of photo essays, and this emergency fund will be going to the member cities who are in danger or some kind of natural disasters. Last but not least, we have the youth programs. We have the content creator, young nomads, and students association. The content creator is comprised of students who are in 20s, and their mission is under 6 months to create creative contents, including videos, news, and articles to promote World Heritage and World Heritage cities in our region. These are the examples of current newses that content creators are making. We are introducing the World Heritage sites and different architectural sites and some other OWHC-AP activities. And also we are writing the scientific articles, as you can see on the left, even though it's in Korean. And also we are making the newsletters that is sent to the Korean and Asia Pacific member cities. We have the Young Nomads program to have a better understand life within around the heritage and creative content producing with YouTube influencers, and we would like to have a step further for the OWHC-AP youth. For 2019, thanks to the great support from member cities in Sri Lanka, we have visited Kandy, Anuradhapura, Sigiriya, and Galle by OWHC-AP Young Nomads. And for 2020, actually, we were trying to go to Denpasar, Indonesia, but because of COVID, we have visited Korean World Heritage cities, including Gyeongju, Yeongju, Andong, Suncheon, and Haenam. With the content that we were collecting during our trip, we are making photo essay and hashtag and videos. The OWHC-AP Student Association is to enhance of understanding towards World Heritage and its city and give the opportunity for future participation in related fields as regional community and develop interest as future generation. We are trying to expand our association from Korea to Asia Pacific region. These are the activities that association are doing, including Students Association Summit and Hands in Hand Summer Camp and club activities. For the Hands in Hands camp, we are trying to change the format a little bit to be more educative, and we are trying to develop the education format that every club, school clubs can implement the program to their school yearly. And we're trying to broaden our participation to Asia Pacific region member cities. It's open for OWHC-AP youth. As we are facing the biggest challenge on 2020, we are looking for a better situation on 2021, and we hope that we can do more on 2021 with our member cities. Thank you very much. That was it for the introductory session, and now let us have the presentations from our experts. As I was looking for the proper topics of the session, I thought stakeholders who are under tremendous suffer from COVID-19 would be the local community. I believe that no one can argue about this fact that the locals are on the front line to World Heritage sites and most valuable part of the World Heritage cities. In that regard, I have chosen this topic, local community and crisis management in times of COVID-19. For the first presentation, we will have Dr. Shabnam Inanloo Dailoo, Associate Professor and Director of Athabasca University's Heritage Resources Management Program and Historic Resources Intern Program, will be presenting with the title of Heritage and Local Community Engagement in COVID-19 Era. Dr. Dailoo, can you start your presentation?
Okay. So thank you, Hyeonji, for the introduction, and hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to participate today, in this workshop, and thank you so much to the organization of the World Heritage Cities, Asia Pacific, Ms. Minaidis, and also Hyeonji for this invitation, and also thanks to Elena for all her help over the last few weeks. As mentioned, my name is Shabnam Inanloo Dailoo, and I'm an associate professor and the director of the Heritage Resources Management Program. So I'm participating today from Edmonton, Alberta in Western Canada, and I live and work on the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples. I honor their ancestry, heritage, and gifts, and give thanks to them. I also want to extend my thanks to the past, present, and emerging elders of the lands that I'm reaching out today virtually. So I'm asked to speak about heritage and local community engagement and how existing approaches have changed since BC, and I mean before coronavirus. Undoubtedly, this year has proved to be a completely different year than what we had planned for, with all the uncertainty associated with the pandemic. Just last week, my provincial government, like many other jurisdictions around the world, declared a second state of public health emergency in Alberta, and new measures are in effect to bend the curve of rising COVID-19 cases, and we are all adjusting to this new reality. I'm sure news such as this one is familiar to you in the newspapers and on social media, that cities are, struggling, and they have challenges in terms of tourism. It's such a widespread issue that has affected many, if not all, World Heritage cities and sites. It's as if people have abandoned these places, so you cannot really find people walking down the streets here or in World Heritage cities and places. And if you look at this map of UNESCO and the information provided about the World Heritage Site closures, you would notice that majority of state parties have declared partial or total closure of their World Heritage properties. And again, this is our new reality. It feels that overnight we moved from having issues with mass tourism and dealing with the impacts of visitors on the World Heritage sites to suffering from lack of visitors and struggling with its economic impacts on these places. This is just the town of Banff in Rocky Mountains when I visited last August. As we enter the second great unknown, as they call it, the second round of the COVID-19, it's unclear whether or not the World Heritage Sites will face another round of closures over the next few months. Again, this is our new reality. So with this prelude to my presentation, I now would like to focus on the role of local communities in protecting and managing heritage places, with particular attention to the significance of education and training in the engagement process. There are two main reasons for that. First is my ongoing research on the application of cultural landscape approach, currently as a researcher in the academia, and previously as a community engagement advisor in the private sector. And second is the World Heritage Conventions and thus committee's attention to local communities and discussions on ongoing and conscious efforts to empower local communities. So cultural landscapes, there is an increasing attention to the cultural landscape approach in heritage management processes. So this approach includes identifying values, understanding where values lie, and also managing values and change. It requires a broader attention to include all values and perspectives, worldviews, and to be based on local context. So it is with this specific attention to the management process that cultural landscape approach, serving as an overarching approach, recognizes cultural context, involves local community, and acknowledges multiple values. Following the discussions on the values-based approaches to heritage conservation that are community-driven and people-centered, and in response to increasing challenges in the protection of World Heritage Sites, in 2002, the state parties of the World Heritage Convention were invited to promote the following objectives, as articulated in the Budapest Declaration on World Heritage. The objectives that were built around 4 C's: credibility of the list, conservation of the properties, capacity building measures, and communication. It was decided then that the committee will evaluate the achievements made in the pursuit of the above-mentioned objectives and in support of this commitment. In 2007, New Zealand proposed to the World Heritage Committee to add communities as the 5th C to the Budapest Declaration, and it's to enhance the role of communities in the implementation of the World Heritage Convention. So I'm sure you all agree with me that communities are the core of heritage conservation and management initiatives and activities. So however, the question now is, how could local communities adjust to the current pandemic crisis while also adapting to other ongoing global crises, such as climate change and conflicts, or local issues such as development pressures and changes in land use, to name a few? So how could decision makers, site managers, professionals continue to work alongside and in close collaboration with local communities and stakeholders during a pandemic? So then we have this new phenomenon, webinar. So please indulge me for a moment. There has been countless online outreach activities to engage communities of all sorts. Those involved in the museums field or built heritage, probably you receive invitations to similar online events on weekly, if not daily basis. So our motto nowadays is physically distant, but socially connected. So we are connected even during this pandemic. So on the screen, you can see a few examples that I have picked. Like these are all video announcements, and they're just in English. I'm sure there are many, many more in different languages around. So I have been to a few of these webinars, either as participant or moderator. For example, last September, as part of ICCROM's lecture series, Athabasca University and the International Institute for the Conservation of Historic and Artistic Works joined forces with ICCROM and hosted a webinar on heritage conservation learning in the COVID world. So educators and students shared their perspectives on the existing and emerging challenges and opportunities. So we successfully reached out to an important group of our heritage community students who are greatly impacted by the pandemic, as their learning is interrupted and they're facing issues to gain the practical, hands-on training that they planned for. So our 2 students from Athabasca University and also Cardiff University in the UK embarked on a social media campaign and reached out to over 500,000 people only on Facebook. They engaged the students from 45 countries in 5 continents. We received more than 1,200 registrations for this webinar. And I think the involvement of the students made this event a success because they formed a core part of the learning community. So students are emerging professionals in the field, our future leaders. So going back again to this poster, I'm sure all of these webinars have been successful in highlighting critical issues and addressing concerns of, their targeted audiences one way or another. But how many of these webinars were hosted or led by local communities directly to discuss their contributions to heritage management during these unprecedented times? There seems to be a gap and perhaps a missed opportunity, I would argue. So international heritage organizations have been active in supporting local communities to develop and implement initiatives while meeting their socioeconomic and also sustainable development goals and inspiring many other communities. You might have heard of Panorama. This is an initiative that allows practitioners to share and reflect on their experiences, increase recognition for successful work, and to learn with their peers how similar challenges have been addressed around the globe. I got a chance to browse through the many interesting case studies that have been listed on the website. Lots of inspiring stories, of course, approaches, tools that are helpful resources for professionals. The key components of a solution, illustrated as building blocks, and you have an example here, can be adapted and reused in other cases. Many of these solutions refer to local community efforts and explain how the success of project is based on strong relationships with the communities. It would be interesting to monitor this site, the website and this initiative, and watch for ideas of engagement during COVID. I don't know if they have posted anything new since this year, but I'm sure we can find interesting examples here. I was personally thrilled to see a solution contributed by a Canadian World Heritage Site, Pimacho in Aki, where they have shared the management system scheme inspired by Indigenous traditional knowledge. So this site is in fact one of the 20 World Heritage Sites in Canada. It's the single green circle in the middle of the map. A quick glance at the list of the World Heritage Sites in Canada, and you notice that Pimacho in Aki is the only mixed heritage property. So the land that gives life is a great example of how the 4 First Nation communities work collaboratively with the provincial and federal governments to safeguard this unique landscape. In their work, they have emphasized the significant role of communities in raising public awareness and training the young generations as custodians. Local communities have been front and center from the preparation of the World Heritage Nomination dossier to its management now. It might be too early to measure the impact of the pandemic on this particular site and to understand how local communities are responding to these new measures. Another example is Writing on a Stone, or Ismapi, which is Canada's latest World Heritage Site, designated in 2019. So this landscape is a sacred place to Blackfoot people, the local Indigenous peoples. They were and continue to be involved in the stewardship of the landscape and in every step of planning and decision-making process. So the current acceptable practices mainly have followed the following principles, in my opinion. So with the shift in heritage conservation paradigm, that is, from monuments, historic buildings, artifacts to communities, we seek to better understand and recognize and embrace the perspectives, interests, and values of a broader public. This includes local communities and also non-traditional stakeholders and partners, and of course, the youth. Communities are key to successful heritage planning and stewardship efforts. That's, undoubtedly the case. Thus, their engagement should be an integral and an ongoing part of heritage planning from early stages. Also, the timely incorporation of their perspectives could lead to effective management of the places that are valuable to them, first of all. And then many heritage places face similar challenges in adjusting, adapting, and responding to this sudden halt. Most of the existing initiatives around heritage communities, environmental conservation, and socioeconomic redevelopment activities are based on in-person and hands-on activities that need people to get together in real time, on site, and work together. Unfortunately, this is not practical these days due to restriction in place because of the pandemic. So post-secondary institutions and heritage programs are no exception and are affected by the pandemic. This includes even my own institution, Athabasca University, even though we are an online institution and have the infrastructure in place to continue with what we do best, providing learning and training opportunities to communities in cities and remote and rural communities. So what's the connection here? So every challenge brings with it its own opportunities. There is always other ways to handle difficult situations. So what lessons we have learned from international webinars? How many people attending webinars are sharing discussion points with their community members? The fact is that there are keen and eager people willing to learn, teach, and share about and also contribute to the protection of heritage places. How could we mobilize that energy and enthusiasm towards the full engagement of local communities during the COVID? So what are possible opportunities to use existing platforms to share stories of community engagement initiatives in the COVID era with other communities? So digital resources and online platforms and means have been used in almost all activities implemented during the pandemic. Why not apply them in the ongoing planning for the future local community efforts? It seems people are more comfortable in participating in online international events these days. Zoom has become part of our lives, a new norm. But having said that, I should also acknowledge the issue of digital equity. How can we address digital inequity and barriers to connectivity for local communities to participate virtually and in a meaningful way? So these barriers could include lack of infrastructure, affordability, relevant language content, lack of digital skills, awareness, and social acceptance. So I believe it's time to invest in the virtual involvement of local communities. This is a goal that can be achieved. Digital equity could be part of both short-term and long-term planning for the future. So as noted in the beginning of the presentation, there is a relationship between local community engagement and heritage and education and training. So collaboration with local, regional, and even international post-secondary institutions or training centers could offer a huge opportunity. So could local leaders be involved in teaching? Could they engage younger generations in learning new skills and new ways of knowing? What if a network of World Heritage cities and training centers and post-secondary institutions could be created to provide support to and also receive support from local communities, to connect emerging professionals with the community's leaders and facilitate exchange of knowledge, indigenous or non-indigenous perspectives, and skills such as arts and crafts. So could this opportunity help site managers and decision makers in building capacity internally and externally? I would say yes. So we could even look at this collaboration from an interdisciplinary perspective in a partnership with different disciplinary areas: administration, management, tourism, marketing, arts and trades, cultural study, and biodiversity conservation, for example. So such partnerships could turn into long-lasting endeavors and continue to thrive even after the COVID. So the possibilities are unlimited. So please consider this as an open invitation from my program at Athabasca University to you all if you're willing to collaborate. So when we think about heritage conservation and local communities, the first points that come to mind are social, economic, environmental, and cultural aspects of management. So the impact that conservation of cultural places and heritage has on the sustainable development of the local community are profound. So the same points are valid during the COVID, plus other critical concerns that need urgent attention and must be addressed now, such as the safety of the members of the community, but this probably is more complicated than we think. So for example, the sudden pause in heritage-related activities, those tied to travel restrictions and heritage tourism has resulted in cuts in revenue for local communities. Often the revenue could be used to cover some costs associated with the conservation maintenance of historic heritage sites, or it has directly and indirectly impacted the employment opportunities that arise from conservation projects, implementation, and also management operation of these places. And on the other hand, other types of activities are emerging. A new focus on the digital aspects of heritage, such as creating virtual visits and online interpretations and exhibitions. So all of these speak to the possibility of digital transformations that are geared towards the needs of communities and their involvement in the virtual activities. So the short impacts of the current crisis is almost known, but what about the long-term effects? How could we prepare ourselves for that? It's critical to plan and be prepared to develop new ways of working with local communities before the relationships that are built with communities are weakened or threatened. It's a common practice. Sorry, I should go back. It's a common practice to allow heritage places to evolve in order to be sustainable. This is the case in responding to the current crises as well, accommodating change. We cannot resist change, but we certainly can manage it. We should and could find new ways, creative and innovative ways to develop new strategies, of course, to address these challenges and create spaces for respectful and inclusive dialogues. So listening to communities should continue to be at the core of heritage activities, regardless of the pandemic. All heritage efforts should continue to be people-centered and collaborative in nature. We need informed input by members of the community, and diversity and inclusivity of opinions and perspectives matter. So the global health crisis has affected the world, and its effects on the heritage sites are undeniable. The current situation has proved the interconnectedness of the world, and I think together we can reflect, create, and enable necessary changes. So it's time to think again what kind of future we want for our shared heritage. And in closing, I would like to invite you all to join our World Heritage Initiative that was just launched on November 16, just 2 weeks ago. And so the World Heritage Convention celebrates its 50th anniversary in 2022, and a series of monthly activities will take place in 2021, and everyone is welcome to be part of this global network of civil society. So you can see the thematic discussion, monthly thematic discussion list on the list, and I encourage you all to join. So thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to the follow-up conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dailoo. It was great to be shared your thought regarding the local community to assess the impact of global pandemic and planning for the future for this pandemic era to be the opportunity to build their local communities and other stakeholders' capacity regarding the World Heritage. For the next presentation, Ms. Aparna Tandon, the Senior Program Leader of the First Aid and Resilience for Cultural Heritage in Times of Crisis, Sustaining Digital Heritage, will be presenting about managing complex crises in World Heritage cities and building resilient communities. Ms. Tandon, please take the floor, please.
It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be here. I thank the organizers for inviting me. I hope my voice is clear. To maintain the quality of the signal, what I will do is start sharing my screen and put on my slides, but I will close my camera feed, audio, video feed in order to keep it going. So just bear with me. Thank you very much. Fine. Thank you. So once again, hello everyone. The topic of my presentation has already been introduced, and it is on managing complex crises. And I think it dovetails very nicely with what Dr. Shabnam was saying earlier. Since the outbreak of COVID pandemic, we have periodically heard of other overlapping disasters such as fires, floods, and storms, many of which have affected historic cities like Sana'a in Yemen, which is also adversely impacted by ongoing conflict. What is very clear from these incidents is that we are not ready. And if I want to put it bluntly, and I do want to put it bluntly, we within the heritage sector are especially failing on all fronts. That is, in prevention, in mitigation, in preparedness, and in response and recovery. So what is wrong? In this presentation, I have tried to highlight some of the risk factors that are at play that we need to consider. I will first highlight, as the theme of this session is on COVID, what are the far-reaching impacts of the COVID pandemic and how they have exposed heritage and people alike to disaster risk. The second aspect of my presentation would be steps for vulnerability reduction and enhancing resilience. Some strategies that are being collected as we go on. So this should not be written in stone, but this is something that has been, that ICCROM, and through my program on first aid and resilience, that we have been collecting in consultation with people who are working in the field. So let's first try to understand what are the impacts so far of cities under lockdown. What is happening to heritage? And also I would like to point out here that ICCROM has come out with impact assessment forms, which I would like there is a COVID page, and these forms have been translated in 7 languages and have been tested in 42 countries. And I think this data is very important. Other organizations such as UNESCO and ICOM have carried out impact assessments, but what we need is site by site, city by city data, which is very important to understand the far-reaching impacts of this pandemic, which will last well into the next year and perhaps the next year after, the year after, until the vaccine is ready and implemented. So let's look at, I think Professor Shabnam has already highlighted some of the impacts have been loss of revenue streams. So this is Taj Mahal in India. You can see a lot of people and then suddenly no people. And that means loss of revenue streams also means loss of livelihoods, reduced resources for conservation, for maintenance, but also reduced resources for people. And that means, as I just said, reduced ability to maintain and conserve, increased challenge of engaging user communities. Reportedly, that has already been pointed out, that now if the visitor is not going to come to your site, how are you going to reach out to your primary user communities? And for that matter, which are your primary user communities? And this also means increased vulnerability to manage disaster risk, and that translates to vulnerable people and vulnerable systems. Now, let's look at strategy 1, or let's say step 1 in vulnerability reduction. Very simple, understand disaster risk. So far, we have been only focusing on hazards. And this is a picture from Beirut after the blast. In order to prevent, mitigate, and prepare, we need to understand disaster risk and the complex interactions between hazards, vulnerabilities, exposure, and risk drivers. Until now, we think earthquake occurred, houses fell, and let's move on. But that's not the whole picture. We do not focus on systemic or indirect vulnerabilities, such as chronic lack of resources, understaffing, lack of efficient policies, and these tend to come together over time to erode capacities for prevention, preparedness, and response. Furthermore, we cannot overlook certain risk drivers that also interact with hazards, such as large-scale urbanization, climate change, and variability. And together, we have to look at this combination. So far, our focus has only been very technocentric and not people-centric, because it's the people who make systems for management. It's the people who decide how a particular city will be governed, and it's the people with whom the problem, the solution also lies. So we have to start looking at the human face of vulnerability and start thinking about how we are going to reduce these vulnerabilities to avoid these the large impacts that we are seeing of multiple risks coming together. The other aspect is that in times of crisis, our thrust is on business continuity. However, we need better assessment tools to understand how lives are disrupted that are associated with heritage. And that means gathering more evidence, more investment in applied research, and understanding how cultural and natural heritage provide capacities for sustainable development and risk reduction. So what is the connect, and where do people fit in this? And how can we better understand capacities, but also vulnerabilities that stem from heritage decline or misuse? I would like to give here an example of an ICCROM field project that we carried out in Vacha, which is a wine-making district in Georgia, known for its wooden crafts and bordering the Russian Federation, and is prone to also earthquakes. We played a vulnerability and capacity assessment game with the local community and the local government officials. And what we found out was startling, although it should not be surprising. It's something that has been pointed out over and over again. But so let's see. Selective risk mitigation. What does it do? So the place Vacha is prone to landslides. And to cut the risk of landslides, the government did a total ban or declared a total ban on wood cutting. That resulted in decline in woodcrafts and decline in the tradition of winemaking, because to support the growth, to grow the vine saplings, the plants, the grape plants, you need to support them with wood. And so winemaking became very expensive. As a result, there was a massive migration of the younger population, which led to loss of knowledge and also use of unsafe materials for construction. So from very wooden houses, they started using contemporary materials for construction. That increased their vulnerability to the disaster risk and also ended up in loss of livelihoods and also decline of crafts and also endangering of identity, because the entire place was very much dependent. Their identity was tied to this tradition of winemaking, and the threat from the Russian, the historic conflict is playing in the background. So I will not get into the details of it. All of this is recorded in a game that we have created, which is available for download and will be available in multiple languages shortly, ranging from Georgian, Russian, Arabic, and hopefully Chinese. And I have given the link here. The case study is there. I encourage, these kind of participatory games, assessments are really, really at the heart of understanding disaster risk and understanding the link between cultural and natural heritage and sustainable development. And these are very area specific. So what works for one World Heritage City may not work for another World Heritage City. So we need to take this into consideration. Also, the other strategy, let's say, is that now we cannot afford to talk about exclusive disaster risk reduction. Until now, our strategy in the heritage sector has been keep people and other sectors away, keep the messiness away. But now, if disaster risk reduction has to work, it has to work for people, nature, and culture together. There is no other formula. For example, I'll just give you this. We ended up at ICCROM making a rapid needs assessment for this World Heritage Site of Sundarbans, which is like a natural World Heritage Site. Here, the site is near the sea, so it is prone to flooding. And because of Cyclone Amphan, it was flooded. The community that takes care of the forest or that lives off the forest is the most unfortunate community, and these are virtually landless people. So when the flooding happened, there was the community was displaced, the flora and fauna was at risk, the entire ecosystem is at risk, and there are industries nearby which are endangering the site. So now, if at all disaster risk management at this site has to work, then the community has to be included as they understand how to manage this resource sustainably, and their lives have to be improved, and their extreme poverty has to be eradicated, and that has to be linked with the development of the site itself. So again, what is needed is a multi-sectoral response, not a single sector response, because we are looking at complex emergencies. Moving on. I would like to give a very good example from Georgetown World Heritage Incorporated. It's a World Heritage City where they are really taking this into practice, supporting livelihoods and ensuring that no one is left behind. They have opened a competition where they are going to help local craftspeople help them to make videos and put their businesses online. Because we keep on talking about digital and scaling digital divides. But where is the action? Are we really, really investing in programs where understanding that in the event, one of the far-reaching impacts of COVID is that people are out of work? Then how are we making sure that they are getting or continuing with their livelihoods? So one of the skills or diversification that is needed is training for putting their businesses online. And this is something we also discovered in Vacha in Georgia, where the craftspeople were saying that we don't know how to put our businesses on Google Map. It's something so simple. It's something so much in our hands to do something like this. So I really encourage everybody to look at the example of the Georgetown and how they are helping their local shopkeepers and businesses to stay open and to put their businesses online. Another aspect here is not to only think about online solutions, but to ensure that we do not have dependency on mass tourism. And that means partnership with humanitarian aid and development agencies and ensuring that microeconomies, wherever they are which very much are dependent on cultural relations, are sustained. For example, these are the flower sellers in Chennai, in India. And this is a famous flower selling market in Chennai. And because of mass tourism, this market is at threat. Whereas, and because of increased flooding, again, these people are at risk. So how do we support these kinds of markets, smaller markets, which are the life of a city, and give it, a distinctive character. So it's something that is like not in our hands in the heritage sector. We need to have very good partnerships with humanitarian aid and development agencies to ensure that such livelihoods, and we are reducing risk to such livelihoods. The other strategy is involving communities in everyday disaster risk management. This is coming from my personal experience right after the earthquake in Myanmar in 2016. Local people, more than 400 temples were, destroyed in the, or were substantially damaged, let's say, in the aftermath of the earthquake there in Bagan, and which is an archaeological site. Now, the government and the heritage sector considers this as an archaeological site, but for the local people, this is a living site. They go and visit the site every day because there are several pagodas. So the community was very quick in assessing damage, in alerting the authorities, as well as in coming to help and start removing the debris. But they were criticized, their haste was criticized by the heritage experts, and ICCROM was called in to train them. And once we started talking with them, we truly understood that never before they had even seen a government damage assessment form. Once we explained the procedure to them, they were very quick in picking it up, improving the procedure, as well as understanding. And their one demand was that since they visit the site every day, some of them were, selling wares for tourists, they could be part of a robust early warning system, as well as when they celebrate these pagoda festivals, like they have, every temple has its own festival attached to it and a community attached to it. The awareness for disaster risk management of the site could be given during such festivals. But unfortunately, even after collecting all these inputs, the official disaster risk management plan does not include communities as, stakeholders, like as let's say main actors, and everything is driven by heritage experts. And this is the problem. This is the crux of the problem. It's site by site. We rely on experts, but we do not rely on locals, and we do not strengthen their capacities. The other aspect is coordinated risk assessments. Now, it is it's good to do a risk assessment for a heritage city or for a heritage site, but just like in case of Beirut, where the source of hazard, which was, the storage of explosives near the bay, it came from outside. So we need to speak with city officials and the wider disaster risk management agencies and national agencies to understand risk assessment and carry out coordinated risk assessments, develop coordinated scenarios, and not to just stay within the heritage sector and carry out our own risk assessments. Sometimes even the terminology that we have within the heritage sector is not compatible with that of the wider disaster risk management sector. So this is a very, very big problem. Another factor of vulnerability is that in a major disaster, after a major disaster, when the emergency coordinator of that country or the agency that coordinates response, activates response, and asks for assistance, and search and rescue begins, heritage is nowhere included in that initial phase. It only enters the scene in the post-disaster needs assessment or early recovery phase. And this is a very big, big problem, because until then, a lot of damage has already occurred, and we get down on the ground too late. As a result, access is denied or restricted, heritage structures are demolished, heritage is not considered as part of humanitarian relief, and most of the aid that comes to cultural heritage is ad hoc or donor driven. So if I am country A and if I am interested in restoring mosques, then I would perhaps give funding for mosques, but not for the entire heritage landscape. So this is a very big issue. Now, what are we trying to do? And it's a very small, effort, but it's an initial one. With the Office of UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, UNESCO, ICCROM is now trying to develop some guidelines where when the search and rescue teams are getting onto the ground, we are trying to embed some extra procedures so that from the very beginning, when the host country is asking for, assistance for search and rescue, from that point onwards, cultural heritage is included in the response. Another aspect that we are working on is a project called Pro Cult Hair. It is a European Union and there's a European Union Civil Protection Organizations project where with Italy, France, Spain, and Turkey, ICCROM is trying to develop common mechanisms and guidelines and methodologies for embedding response for cultural heritage in civil protection. So this will this project, because of COVID, has been extended up to 2021, and the aim is that by the end of 2021 there would be a mechanism through which European countries would be able to have civil protection teams with capabilities for rescuing cultural heritage in its initial stage. But we are also trying to do similar efforts, and we have done some workshops in Vietnam and in Brazil to carry this out. But this is again something that needs wider support from the also the as an organization of World Heritage Cities. And I think this would be my key message, that risk management, disaster risk management for cultural heritage has to be mainstreamed and has to be integrated from risk assessment to response to recovery with the wider systems that we have in place. Finally, I would like to draw your attention to some multilingual guidance and self-help tools that ICCROM has developed, which I think are very important for capacity building, because there are self-help tools and anybody can, so if they can be, translated into more Asian languages, some of the tools exist in more than 10 languages. Last but not the least, COVID pandemic has very clearly shown us the inequalities that exist in our society. And the Black Lives Matter movement has pinpointed some of the heritage-related inequalities. Some heritage that we care for does represent hurtful past and does refer to, let's say, the colonial past or the past of oppression. What is heritage doing to correct that imbalance? We have to think about that. So whatever projects that we undertake in our World Heritage Cities or through our museums, through our institutions, or in post-war recovery, in post-conflict recovery, when there is overt conflict and when there is latent conflict, we need to understand what role heritage plays in intensifying conflict, in escalating tensions, as well as in deepening divides. We cannot go on treating heritage as a benign contract. We have to see heritage as an open-ended contract, and we have to see the role that heritage institutions play in making it a top-down like no arguments story. We have to make the story more inclusive. And in order to do that, we have to understand latent conflicts, conflict dynamics, as well as, because every society has conflicts and they are not necessarily bad, but when they turn into violence, that's when it is worrying. To understand this better, ICCROM is now developing and in fact field testing a peace building assessment tool for heritage recovery and rehabilitation, which I think we need more tools like this. We need to start our projects in our World Heritage cities with a better contextual understanding and understanding what role heritage plays for and how that heritage is significant for people and for which people it is excluding the people or is going to strengthen the marginalization. So those kind of tools, practical tools, not theoretical, not academic, but very kind of field-oriented tools are needed. And I would be very happy to share this tool when it is out. It's supposed to be published by the end of this year. So again, I'll be happy to share that with the audience, with the participants here. So in short, enhancing capacities for multi-hazard disaster risk management, the kind of overlapping risks that we are, confronted with, would require partnership, would require investing in Sustainable Development Goals number 11, which is about sustainable communities, about coordinated disaster risk reductions, about climate action, about peace, justice, and strong institutions, but all together and never alone. So with that, I would like to end my presentation and I invite everyone for questions. And our motto is culture cannot wait. It is an important driver for peace and development. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tandon, for your wonderful presentation. As far as I understood, the strategies, understanding the disaster risk, comprehensive assessment, gather evidence, disaster reduction for all, supporting livelihoods, ensuring no one is left behind, and any other strategies to manage the crisis and the way to recover early and build disaster resilience is most important in our crisis management. We will be having a short break for 15 minutes. That would be 8:45 for Greece and 13:40 for Luang Prabang. And for Sri Lanka and India, it would be 12:15, and for Canada, it will be 11:45 p.m. We will be gathering after 15 minutes, and we will have the city presentation report, and then we have the question and answer time. Please come back in 15 minutes, and don't leave the meeting room. Just please mute your video and sound. Thank you very much. Okay, we have everybody right here. Let us start the city report. Cities are the most important stakeholders for the organization, as we were established for the cities who have same issues as World Heritage cities. In that regard, it is my belief that listening to the city's situation and having enough information would bring lots of advantages for regional secretariat to build the blueprints for the future and cities to understand each other's situation to deal with this crisis. First of all, Mr. Kwon Huh, the Vice President of Mongolian International University and former Regional Coordinator of OWHC-AP, will be presenting the general information of COVID-19 in Republic of Korea.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening all. I'm very glad to participate in the meaningful meetings organized by the OWHC Asia and the Pacific Secretariat. I'm very glad to meet all the expert colleagues send my best regard to my old friend, Lee. We are much concerned with the worldwide economic recession. The COVID-19 has caused enormous political, social, and economic impact and damages across the globe. While no appropriate report has yet been published on the damage to Korea's World Heritage Cities, our heritage managers say the damage caused by COVID-19 is substantial. Today, I would like to explain the general situation in Korea rather than talking about the specific city. Next. After first confirmed coronavirus in January 2012 in Korea, about 32,000 confirmed cases occurred in late November, including 500 unfortunate deaths. There might be a smaller number if we compare the rest of the world. You can say that Korea reacted quickly. Next. Looking at the number of COVID-19 cases per region, we found that the number of confirmed cases is significantly higher in a large city, the areas of Seoul City, the capital, and the Gyeonggi-do province, and Daegu, and the Gyeongsang-buk-do province, representatively approximately 70% of total number. Korea currently only has 14 World Heritage sites. The World Heritage site located in Metropolis, Jongmyo Shrine, and the Changdeok-gung Royal Palace in Seoul, and the Hwasun, the fortress in Suwon. And the World Heritage site located in medium-sized cities are royal tombs of Joseon Dynasty, Gyeongju historic area, Hwae traditional village. Many Buddhist temples and Confucius shrines are located in small cities and mountain area. We came to conclude that a large number of confirmed cases have occurred in the very important World Heritage areas. They are Seoul and the Gyeongju city and Andong city, where a large number of foreign and local tourists are packed. Next slide, please. As shown in picture here, Buddhist monks in the World Heritage area wear masks, and they are actively cooperate with the COVID-19 prevention program. As soon as COVID-19 struck, the Korean government and the local government took steps to close the doors of cultural facilities and centers, such as museums, art galleries, concert halls, and libraries, to prevent the spread of a virus. The same measures had also been taken for Royal Palace and the historic park and the traditional village throughout the country. Next. As you see in photos, in the case of traditional village of Hwae in Andong, 1.14 million people came last year, and this year, as you see in the parking lot and the open theater, there is a very calm atmosphere without the tourists. Local heritage managers say this is the great damage for the first time. The outstanding universal value of the Hyatt village has been seriously damaged, and the community solidarity is weakening. Next. All the sectors of society are supporting damaging, but I think the impact of the cultural sector is quite serious. First, the tourists don't come. Social cultural activities and functions are suspended, and the local economy deteriorated due to the lockdown. More importantly, the artisans, artists, workers, and the local small business owners are sufficiently suffering greatly. Next. The heritage management, as you know, should be depending on the outstanding universal value and the location of the World Heritage Site. Korea has also established measures to protect the cultural heritage in consideration of various crisis situations. However, it's true that the COVID-19 situation is never been considered at all. Our conservation and management effort has been mainly focusing on the natural disasters, such as fires, earthquake, the floods, the typhoons, and the landscape, and others. I can say that we are lacking of the preparedness as far as the human security is concerned, and the lack of the understanding of climate change and sustainable development. Next, please. Next, I would like to briefly explain how our cities are coping with COVID-19 with some examples. First of all, like in other living species, the general antivirus guidelines has been fully implemented in all the World Heritage areas. The compulsory wearing of masks, securing a safety distance of 2 meters, checking body temperature, and enforcing a pre-reservation system when necessary were implemented in the World Heritage site. In addition, especially in the several World Heritage sites where many foreign tourists come, site managers set up the special sign with different languages of English, Japanese, Chinese, along with Korean. Next. Depending on the COVID-19 situation, the World Heritage sites were closed or partially opened. As shown in this photo, all priests wear masks and offer the rituals at the Jongme Shrine in Seoul, a World Heritage site, and it was conducted without visitors and guests. Next. Furthermore, some World Heritage sites we have installed some quarantine facilities which can control access more strictly. Look at this photo, Anoubphab village, where residents and tourists stay together. They installed the antivirus quarantine gate at the entrance of the village. Next. The World Heritage area is the heart of local culture. Many art and cultural festivals held periodically each season are central to enriching local economy and strengthening the regional identity. However, unfortunately, in this year, all major festivals were not held and were postponed to the next year. The Silla Cultural Festival in Gyeongju, in the Hwasun Cultural Festival in Suwon, and the Hwasun Dolmen Festival, which were representative local festivals in Korea, and have resolved to abandon the hosting this year and take it next year. Moreover, local social and cultural events were cancelled, making access to the World Heritage Site virtually difficult for the general public. Next. In addition, I'd like to continue to explain some more activities which World Heritage cities have carried out to revitalize the community in the pandemic time. Let me present a few the representative cases. First, next. Non-face-to-face concert and online participation program which artists visit to citizens were newly prepared or supplemented as a representative project. In Suwon City, where the World Heritage site is located, the performing artists and musicians visit nearby communities and had a balcony concert, a flash program that can heal the so-called corona flu, such as peer closure due to COVID-19 and the psychological pressure. As you see, you have the creative programs, the cooperating the artists and the people. So artists present the gift if they got the email from the visitor who have a proof to visit to the World Heritage Site. Next slide. In this difficult time, the World Heritage and the managers focused on the production and the preparation of the online content as possible as they can. Suwon City produced various festival content in video format to appease the disappointment of citizens, as the representative of the culture festival in the region was postponed to the next year. Next, please. As a non-face-to-face travel become a new trend, each World Heritage Site has begun to update and prepare a new website for the new situation. Next. The number of foreign visitors has declined significantly. The government has begun to take strategies to boost the bridging through the revitalization of domestic tourism. From January to May, the Korea Tourism Organization, KTO, began to investigate the changes in domestic tourism behavior during the non-face-to-face era. Through the big data of a mobile phone carrier for about 21 weeks, they analyzed the movement patterns and behavior changing of domestic tourists. The result of the survey have enabled local government to understand how the tourism trends are changing in the World Heritage Site in the pandemic time, and they began to establish new strategies for this. In Andong, Gyeongju, and Gyeongju cities, site managers started to develop a variety of tour courses that can travel on family and a small scale. Next slide. Finally, I would like to present a few tasks of the Korea's World Heritage cities. I don't think these are the only problem of Korea alone. I believe these issues are common in all World Heritage cities, not only in the Asia-Pacific region, but also America and Europe. With regard to the conservation, some archaeological excavation has been temporarily suspended within the World Heritage Site. However, it seems that there is no big problems in heritage conservation in general. On the contrary, the protection of this site was relatively good, as the entrance of tourists to outside visitors declined. However, I found that crisis and risk management methods so far are not sufficient for the sustainable conservation of heritage. New approaches need to be adopted on the dimension of the human security and the revitalization of community. However, as far as the credibility of World Heritage is concerned, there does not appear to be a substantial difference in credibility between before and after pandemic. Those serious cases have undermined the outstanding universal value. However, it seems that there is a big issues in the awareness building area. As I mentioned before, this pandemic should be regarded as a meaningful opportunity for city mayors, site managers, and citizens to take a comprehensive and integrated approach to the World Heritage management. Next. As for the communication must be a new approach. The development and the distribution of new media contents, such as the virtual reality and the AR, is needed. The relationship with the community become more important. What we realized in this situation, a particular situation, is that without the cooperation of the local resident, we would not be able to overcome COVID-19. The protection of World Heritage is only possible with cross cooperation and the dialogue with the community. In addition, I acknowledge that the living residents who are directly related to the World Heritage Site has more damages. Therefore, I call your attention to the necessity to help the vulnerable classes to get normal life. Next. In conclusion, our World Heritage cities have endured significant damage, as have other OWHC city members. I realized that there is no separate investigation on the damages from the heritage protection and from the perspective of the management. I hope that our colleagues mentioned people, a number of a series of the studies on the recovery, resilience, and sustainability of cities should be continued. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huh, for the holistic view for the Korean COVID-19 situation. It seems that Korea has relatively lower number of confirmed cases. However, it is the fact the recent numbers seems not really good. I believe that it will be definitely effect to our tourism and also every aspect of our World Heritage cities. But it seems like guidelines are getting more reinforced to save local people's health and as well as the economy. So we hope for the best. So is it possible that Mr. Yengher Vacha, the vice head of Luang Prabang City Administrative Office, present first, and then we will have the presentation of Kandy City next. Is that okay with you, Mr. Vacha?
Yes.
Great. Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for OWHC-AP and the government of Korea that invites our city to participate in this workshop. Actually, this is the first time I participate in this workshop on behalf of Anoubphab city because the mayor is busy with his work, so I decided to participate in this workshop instead of him. So, like I mentioned before about the topic I will present today is just about the general information of Anoubphab city in the situation of COVID-19 pandemic. So, let me begin with the information of Anoubphab city. I know that many of you already know about Anoubphab city. It is the city located in the northern part of Laos with few population and areas. So this map shows about the location of the heritage site boundary. As you see, the red boundary is the boundary of the heritage site of Anoubhab city with area of about 800 hectares and 79 villages located in the boundary. On the another information, Anoubhab city not only in the World Heritage Sites, but also in the center of administration, institutions, transportations, and also the location connection with the neighbor countries in ASEAN and also China, Korea. So I want to show this slides because I will present later about how the COVID-19 pandemic affects to the city. So the economic system for the Anoubhab city, there are three main sectors. First, tourism service based on its World Heritage sites, and second, agriculture. And the third is industry and handicrafts. So I will go deeper to the COVID-19 pandemic in Laos as well as in Luang Prabang cities. So, yeah, as you can see, these figures, some words are in Lao and also in English. So the first pandemic found in Laos and in Luang Prabang was in March 2020. Luang Prabang has 3 cases out of the total 39 cases confirmed in Laos country. But those 3 cases were only found in March. After that, there is no any cases found in Luang Prabang until now. And I want to show you some measures and that be implemented in my country and in my cities. So we have many measures for protection and control the COVID-19 pandemic in the country from every periods based on the COVID-19 pandemic situation. For example, on March, we canceled the national games. We implement some measures like a 14-day quarantine and close schools, stop visa for tourists, stop traveling within country, working from home. After that, close the border totally. And after that, on May, when the pandemic, the number of cases slowed down, so we reopened the province, traveling between countries and working at office. After that, no any case happened. We opened several schools, and on June this year, we opened all the schools, major service in the country. So let's say that now our country is open normally, just close the border and do not do any visa for tourists. But for experts, for the big projects and for the official visits, we opened. So far for the COVID-19 pandemic impacts on the socio-economic, we didn't have any certain survey reports about the effects yet, but in general view of our government, we can say that COVID-19 affect to all people and all areas, and the economic is that the economic growth is slowed down and uncertainties, and the change of living styles is absolutely. Our country and our cities have many workers that return from neighbor countries. We should manage those workers properly, and we should find the works, find the place for them to follow the COVID-19 regulation. So that's very big works for our cities during the COVID-19 pandemic. Tourism sector, as you know, in the World Heritage Sites, the most important is tourism. So tourism sector are directly affected from the country lockdown. The most affected are the hotels, casinos, and tourist destination. Our cities, those hotels and casinos are constructed for the foreign tourists. So now the country lockdown, so no any foreigner tourists come. So that's why those services are empty. And people that working on tourism sectors, they have to change their jobs. During the COVID-19, as you know, Luang Prabang is the city, the heritage site of culture of Laos. So many traditional festivals and events have been cancelled and organized smaller than past years. So those are the general views of us, what COVID-19 impacts to the socio-economic in the heritage site of Luang Prabang. With that, what we will do in the future to recover to resilience the city of Luang Prabang to move further, we can summarize like this. First, we are implementing the measures from the central government very strictly. And together with that, we try to maintain the political stability and social security to ensure that everything's under control. So when the economics, when the tourists affected, then we try to find another potential sectors that can help or can stand by to push the economic growth to the future. Like I just mentioned, many workers in tourism sectors are unemployment. Then so we try to promote another sectors like agriculture, production, to create jobs for those unemployments. So beside that, we try to promote small medium enterprise to help them to pass these difficult times. And be preparedness for the natural disasters. We now try to promote international cooperation, especially smart city development. So I think that's for all what I can say now, but let me summarize in general that Luang Prabang cities have no many cases of COVID-19, only 3 cases in March. So now our city as well as our country is open normally for all the people, for all the activities. We only close for tourists and foreigners that have just for tourists. So let's say that now my city is open normally and only in the hotel, casino, and other activities that created for tourists still affected. So next, in the next, then we will try to recover and to enhance these activities for to the normal situation. So thank you very much for your listening. That's all for my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vacha. It is great to hear that the city of Luang Prabang has no new case since March 2020. But as you mentioned, as the socioeconomic impacts are pretty high, I think that would be all for the World Heritage Cities, which tourism are the main aspects and main industry of the city. I hope we could assess the Luang Prabang's COVID-19 effects and find some ways that we can deal with the crisis. And for the next, we have the Mr. Kesera Senanayake, the Mayor of Kandy, Sri Lanka, will be presenting about Kandy's case towards the COVID-19. Mr. Mayor, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Great.
First of all, let me thank you for having afforded me this privilege and this opportunity to address member cities and officials of the OWHC in these very troublous times. These are extraordinary times that we live in, and it takes extraordinary courage to face whatever we are faced with now. Sri Lanka too is experiencing the COVID epidemic this time round. When I say that, when it first emerged in March, April and May, our government went in for an immediate and total close down, which proved to be extremely successful. We were able to bring all the cases under control, and there were no reported cases after a period of 3 months. However, the second time round, the government has other priorities to think of, such as the economy. They are not thinking of total shutdowns, but they are isolating and shutting down certain areas where there is a significant outbreak of COVID cases. Now, the country situation being that Sri Lanka is experiencing 23,984 cases reported now. But my city of Kandy, which we are talking about now, has only reported 33 cases, which is a fair amount that we feel we could control. However, the city of Kandy has taken extraordinary measures, such as closing down public spaces, such as playgrounds, community centers, then the central market in Kandy, and also the public libraries, etc. But in whatever we do, our cities are governed or have to take instructions from the central government, which is represented in every province by the governor of the province, who is appointed to that post by His Excellency the President of Sri Lanka. So with these restrictions in mind, we have tried our utmost to limit cases here. Unfortunately, there was an outbreak in a very densely populated community in Kandy called Mahaya, where a lot of poor people live. And these are the people who provide the major workforce for cleaning activities in the city of Kandy. We were able to quickly isolate 3 cases, remove their families for isolation purposes, and now the situation is turning towards the better. However, as we know, the city of Kandy, being a World Heritage City, is the citadel for the Buddhists from all over the world. In Kandy, you find the temple of the Buddha's tooth relic, which is depicted here with the elephant in red. Now, this, along with other heritage sites in Kandy, have made it a tremendous attraction to tourists from all over the world for many, many decades now. But with the onset of the COVID crisis, many of these beautiful heritage properties, which are the Queen's Hotel and the Swiss Hotel, etc., have all been deserted. And this has resulted in tremendous unemployment, especially among the youth of our city. Kandy, as you are no doubt aware, is a commercial hub. It's full of shops and markets dotting the city. But most of these are now deserted, not only as they are being boycotted by tourists, but many Sri Lankans themselves are scared to go to crowded shops. Kandy also is the hub for many a governmental building, such as the governmental secretariat you see here with the columns, and also below is the Kandy Municipal Council, which is the main body that runs this heritage city of ours. Also, Kandy has such beautiful places to offer to any aspiring tourist. As people who have visited will know, here is depicted the beautiful Peradini University in its landscape gardens. Now, even this is closed down. There are no undergraduates or postgraduates anywhere to be seen. Neither are the world-famous Peradini Botanical Gardens, which is depicted below, visited by anyone now, and the gates are closed. Such is the backlash that we have received from the COVID crisis this time round, the second time round. Now, Kandy is a city which has experienced bubonic plague and Spanish flu nearly 100 years ago. I wonder how the city authorities dealt with it at that time. However, what we see now is unprecedented, and the fear psychosis, with many shops closing down and many other private institutions locking their doors. So we practice safe practices such as wearing masks, washing of hands, the safe distancing, all that is being practiced. But with all that, since there were a few reported cases in Heritage City, many of the public buildings remain closed. I must also state that the tourism in our city has taken a massive blow with the closures and the resultant unemployment. But our government is trying strenuously to promote domestic tourism where it is possible, keeping in mind all the health regulations that are in operation. For example, weddings, which used to have about 300-400 people, are now restricted to 50 or 60 people. So the Kandy Municipal Council has a premier role to play in these activities because the Medical Office of Health, who is attached to us, supervises all these events. Furthermore, the government of Sri Lanka has encouraged our banks, both private and governmental, to give cut price loans. By that I mean loans which used to go at about 14% are now being offered at 4 or 5%. This is to help start-up businesses or to allow existing businesses to carry on their day-to-day activities and survive until we get over this very bitter experience that we are all faced with. So I thank you all once again for having given us entry, but let me also say that the Kandy Municipal Council has stepped in wherever possible, because a lot of people are marooned in their own homes. And we try, as is depicted in these photographs, which you may see now, we try to ensure that our municipal council lorries take these food items from door to door so that the people don't have to go without food or water or any other provisions. Thank you. There are many private individuals and public organizations and companies coming forward, supplying medical equipment and other food items, not only to the people of the city, but also to our officials who take part in cleaning the city, spraying chemicals at bus stands and various other public spaces. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your presentation. I'm glad that Kandy only has 33 confirmed cases and well controlled. I hope that your promoting for the domestic tourism will work well and it will be helpful for your city's economy. Now, as the last part of the session, I will have a short question and answer time for 30 minutes. There's no common questions, so floor is open to free questions and answers. If any participants have a question to other participants or to all, please raise your hand for the question. Is there anyone who has the question? If not, I have some questions. To Dr. Dailoo. I'm glad that your university has the heritage management program. And I was wondering if this program could transformed and implemented to the cities. Like if this education program or this heritage management program could be implemented to the World Heritage Cities, it would be great for site managers and city administrators to make their related policy about the World Heritage Site. Do you have any opinion or suggestions for that?
Thank you so much for your question. So the Heritage Resources Management Program is an online program. So we offer courses in different areas, and it's open to everyone and anyone. So we are very sort of accessible, flexible in terms of training, and people can come and be part of this as like a professional development opportunity. So we have been working with the local government here in Alberta, and we have this internship program, for example. So how it works is that it's a 4-year paid internship program, and students or interns can work in historic sites and museums across the province. So I would be responsible for their training and the education side of it, but they also have the hands-on experience. So what we did a few years ago, we developed new courses that address the gaps in the area. For example, like condition assessment in terms of built heritage, industrial heritage, or architectural conservation, and another course, documentation, for example. And with that, we opened it up to everyone who is interested to take those courses. So what I have been doing is that I've reached out to international experts in the field. I'm working with experts in UK, in Spain, in Canada, actually, who work internationally. So we are bringing international perspectives to our courses. Right now, actually, we are offering the risk management course that Aparna was talking. So we discuss all those, risk preparedness and, condition assessment in the courses. So what I'm trying to propose here is that because we have the infrastructure and we have all the content ready, we can easily customize and reuse this and reach out to site managers, for example. So, for example, I teach a graduate level course, and it's a foundational course. And in that course, I always talk about World Heritage Sites, outstanding universal values, and how, we can learn about international initiatives and apply them locally. So that's something that we do. Right now, my hope is for the winter semester, I can tie it to the sustainability theme of our World Heritage Initiative that I mentioned. So there are lots of opportunities for collaboration, and because we are online, we can be everywhere and anywhere. And I'm basically open to any suggestions from you, everyone, like the participants, for collaboration, just to have a pilot project and see how it works. I don't know if I answered your question.
It was perfect. Thank you very much. Actually, this program reminds me of the General Secretariat's program, the capacity building. I'm not pretty sure what's the name of the project, but we have the online program that helps the site managers to build their capacities regarding several issues, rightly? Am I correct? So I think it would be best if we can collaborate between OWHC or OWHC-AP and your university to develop this kind of educational programs for the cities, because we are representing the cities, of course, and especially for the Asia Pacific cities who are not have enough infrastructures to have the actual meeting or actual education programs. It would be wonderful if we have those kind of education program online. Thank you very much.
By all means. Yeah, by all means. And as I said, we have this internship, we have a precedent here in locally. And what I have done, I have received, for example, executive approval to provide discounts through this agreement that we have with the province. So there are lots of ways that we could help each other and support each other, because heritage community is a small community given everything that is happening around the world. So yes, let's have a conversation at some point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And I have one more question. I have a question to Ms. Tandon. I'm kind of really impressed by your strategies that you are dealing with the crisis management. How could local communities implement your previously mentioned strategies, like 7 steps or 8 stages strategies to manage the crisis, especially for COVID-19? Because we have had a lot of natural disasters such as typhoon or earthquakes and some kind of deals, and we all know that this kind of natural disaster can lead our World Heritage into the World Heritage in danger. So I was wondering if this your strategy to crisis management could deal with the COVID-19 situation as well, and if so, would it be there any possible action plans for that?
Yeah.
That was my question.
Okay,
thank you.
So there are 3 questions in there, in one into another. So I'll try to address them one by one. So first of all, what I did not emphasize enough was that ICCROM runs a capacity building program, and actually one of our other program on World Heritage leadership is also looking at building resilience against disasters. And the program that I'm currently leading is also First Aid and Resilience for Cultural Heritage in Times of Crisis program. Within this program, we have international training, and we have very local nationalized training opportunities, as well as regional training opportunities. For example, next week, for the Asia-Pacific region and with the government of Korea, with the the Korean Heritage Agency, we will be organizing an online course with a follow-up, in-person follow-up for movable heritage, where we will be working with local professionals to develop coordinated disaster risk management plans so that they can, the way I highlighted that in example from Bagan, like how you can involve local community. Similarly, there could be a possible potential for a partnership we are exploring with Japan, with OWHC-AP, where we could run community-based, training community representatives and people to implement some of these strategies that I spoke about. Because what is very important is that this cannot, if I may say so, this should not be academic or a university course. This should be applied to, your situation. And that means that people who are embedded within their context, the change has to come from within. And from outside, a Parisian solution will not work for something in Luang Prabang, for example, because there is also the innate and there is like local capacity that we have to enhance, the local knowledge that we have to bring out. So to do that, there are various ways. One is definitely is the capacity building aspect of it. Then the second aspect of it is working with the institutions that are interested in developing field projects where we can actually apply some of these aspects which we are talking about, and we are actually doing it. The examples that I gave you for COVID for everywhere, we're just launching a project with Aleph Foundation for MENAP region, which is the Middle East, North Africa, North Africa, Pakistan, and Afghanistan region, with intersecting conflicts, COVID, and disasters. So the idea is not, as I said, to look at single thing, but look at, for example, we were talking about dependency on tourism and livelihood diversification. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is day-to-day management and ongoing culture of risk management. So it is not rocket science. It is all possible if we apply what is there locally available and we design something more efficient and look at uncontrollable risk also, because there is some risk that you can control, as our esteemed speakers, the different mayors have pointed out. Very, very good strategies have been taken to control, to isolate. The world has no other options. But then on the other hand, the humanitarian response aspect of it, the collaboration with humanitarian NGOs to ensure that the relief part in this crisis phase is reaching is very important. And having long-term mechanisms to activate that for cultural heritage is equally crucial. Right now, the problem is that the cultural heritage sector does not have the capacity to provide relief to heritage-based livelihoods. And that is one of your problems. The other problem is that if we do risk assessments for heritage, they are expert-centric, they are hazard-centric, and they look at single hazard. Even now, we just say COVID-19 response. No, we cannot afford to have a COVID-19 response. We need to have COVID-19 plus other known and unknown risk response. So what we are talking about is a culture of ongoing management. And the way to implement that is through capacity building, training of trainers, as well as doing applied field projects. That's why I was saying we need to invest a little bit more. And so if the Organization of World Heritage Cities, OWHC-AP is ready to do some field projects where targeted, coordinated disaster risk management programs, plans can be made, implemented, over time change can be monitored. Along with that, development is integrated. I think it would be a win-win for everybody because the world needs those case studies. So that's where I rest my point.
Thank you very much. I understand your answer would be we need some risk management for COVID-19 plus unknown risks, and we would have the more holistic crisis management for our future era. Am I correct? Yes, great. Yeah, I think Mr. Hall has the question.
Thank you, moderator. It was very impressive to gather more information on the recent activities of ICCROM. Especially, you mentioned in your presentation there is some necessary to study more on the relations between the people and the heritage preservation. I think it is a very, very wonderful direction the ICCROM should take in the future. As you know very well, at the several World Heritage sites, there are some conflict between the peoples, the publics, and the government. So government they try to protect the as it was originality. However, the civil society would like to develop the community in order to get more benefit from the economic activities. So development and the preservation is a very everlasting long discussions, as you see. But you mentioned about in relation to the sustainable development, ICCROM will focus on the people and the heritage relations. It is very wonderful, the approaches. The former regional coordinator of OWHC-AP, I found that most of the Asia Pacific World Heritage cities has some difficulties how to coordinate with the central government. You see, the preservation and the conservation of the World Heritage Site in Asia and the Pacific has been done by the central government. So the local government, I found the local government has of limited responsibility. So how to encourage the participation of the local government for the preservation of the World Heritage, I think it has the limitation. So in the future, the international non-governmental organizations such as ICCROM, maybe in relation to the strategies and the people heritage relations, maybe you can develop some useful the materials for the explain the relations with the people heritage, the preservation, and there is the necessary of the local government to deeply involved in the conservation process. That is my finding. So whenever I meet the local government, the authorities, they say they have their limited responsibility. So in the future, you mentioned ICCROM and maybe ICCROM will focus on the people heritage relationship. It is a new approach. So wonderful the approaches as per the site manager at the local government. So I would like to welcome any wonderful result of your study. And then in relation to my dear colleague from the Canadian university, I think your university has accumulated many experiences in educating the young people and the study, their research a lot, with regard to the preservation and the utilization of the heritage. So we are much concerned with the community engagement in the preservation process. In relation to your the internship or the educational program, we would like to, the Asia Pacific Secretary would like to work together. I mean the partnership with your university to set up a new, the kind of the short-term the educational program for the different topics. Because as I mentioned earlier, you can say that all different approaches for the preservation of the heritage. So you are not a government institution, so maybe you can understand the situation of the local government. So I think in collaboration with the university, Asia Pacific Secretary could manage the very special educational training program for the future. So I'd like to your it is my intention to work together with your university. So I want to have your the response for to my question, to my request. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mr. Huh has one more pitch to comment.
I think this gathering is very meaningful for all the site managers, city mayors, and the expert. I would like to remind the wonderful the document decided by the General Assembly of the OWHC in Peru. So our mayors had decided to adopt a document in relation to the problem on the resilience in the cities. So I think all site managers and the mayors of the Asian Pacific region needed to reflect the spirit of the document, or the Anoubphab document. So I think that document needs to be distributed once again through our website. I think yesterday I read the full text of the document. So the document contained the every aspect, every questions relating to the how to improve the resilience in the city. So how to maintain the sustainability of the preservation and how to make a good relations with the public. So I think that is a very wonderful document. So I asked the DMD to distribute to the document once again to all the heritage member cities. This is my small comment and a small request to our OWHC friend. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huh, for your additional comment. Does Lee have any comments about that?
Well, I think, and thank you very much, Professor Huh, for referring to the Arequipa resolution that was adopted in 2015 at our World Congress, and there were 18 points. But I think 3 would be more relevant to our discussion. Of course, we will, and I've taken note of that, we will republish or promote or whatever, make known the Arequipa resolution. But the 3 that I think are more relevant are: the role of cultural heritage with regard to resilience should not be limited to concerns about natural hazards. Economic and social resilience should also be an essential part of our understanding of the concept. Point number 2 was the disaster risk management plan should be developed to address these risks and be integrated into all World Heritage Management Systems structures. And the third point, in many places, the first defense line for heritage protection is the local community. And therefore, these communities should be fully involved in heritage planning processes to encourage resilience. These were 3 of the 18, but perhaps more relevant to our discussion. Thank you.
As I previously mentioned about Ms. Tandon's ICCROM livability video, we will turn on the video for like 9 minutes if that's okay for everybody. Is it okay? Great.
كيف يعد التراث الثقافي مصدراً لتوفير ودعم سبل العيش؟ تعتمد العديد من سبل العيش على المعارف والمهارات والعادات والمفاهيم الثقافية التي تنتقل من جيل إلى جيل، ومن بينها الحرف اليدوية مثل صناعات الفخار والنسيج والممارسات الزراعية بما تشمله من تربية وتسمين الحيوانات، والسياحة التراثية والحفاظ على المقتنيات الأثرية، وتضمن استمرارية ممارسة الشعائر الدينية والروحية. كيف تؤثر الأزمات على سبل العيش؟ تؤثر حالة الطوارئ على سبل العيش بكافة نواحيها، بل إن بعض سبل العيش يتم النيل منها أو استغلالها عن عمد أثناء النزاعات، وتتعرض مجموعات بعينها من الناس للخطر دون غيرهم نتيجة لعوامل البعض منها يتعلق بدياناتهم أو انتماءاتهم القبلية أو أصولهم العرقية أو نوعهم الجنسي أو بسبب فئتهم العمرية. كيف يتعامل الناس في ظل هذه التغيرات؟ يضطر البعض في ظل الجائحة إلى ترك مسقط رأسه بحثاً عن العمل، بل تجبره ظروف الجائحة إلى اتخاذ خيارات خطيرة، من بينها الحصول على قروض بفائدة مرتفعة، أو اللجوء إلى الجريمة أو المخدرات أو الكحول، أو الانضمام إلى الجماعات المسلحة. وعلى المدى البعيد يزداد التأثير ليصل إلى حد فقدان المعارف والمهارات المتعلقة بمهنته وممارساته الثقافية، فينقطع نقل تلك المعارف إلى الأطفال والأجيال القادمة. ما الخطوات التي يمكن اتخاذها لدعم سبل العيش التي تعتمد على التراث والتي تضررت بشدة جراء هذا الوباء، ومن يستطيع مساعدتك. الخطوة الأولى: حدد الفئات الأكثر احتياجاً: كبار السن، المرأة المعيلة، والأشخاص دون مأوى، وذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة، والنازحين. اجمع البيانات من مصادر مثل لجان الإغاثة الحكومية الوطنية ومكتب الأمم المتحدة لتنسيق الشؤون الإنسانية. اتصل أيضاً بلجان الإغاثة الحكومية المعاونة وقادة المجتمع المدني ومراكز المنظمات غير الحكومية المحلية للإغاثة، وذلك لتحديد عدد الأشخاص المعرضين للخطر. تواصل مع الأشخاص أو القادة الفاعلين في المجتمع لفهم مختلف الآثار المحتملة المترتبة على الوباء. تواصل أيضاً مع العائلات والأفراد من خلال زيارتهم المباشرة وإجراء عدد من الحوارات المباشرة والجماعية. الخطوة الثانية: حدد ما إذا كانت احتياجات العيش الأساسية من مأكل ومأوى كريم ومياه ودورات مياه وخدمات الرعاية الصحية يتم توفيرها. وحاول أن تعرف المنظمات غير الحكومية التي تقدم هذا النوع من الدعم. على سبيل المثال، في حلب، سوريا، أثناء النزاع المسلح، قام الهلال الأحمر العربي السوري وجمعيات خيرية أخرى بتسليم المواد الضرورية إلى جميع أنحاء المدينة. تواصل مع المنظمات العاملة في منطقتك. اتصل أو قابل الجهات الفاعلة دون الوطنية وهيئات الإغاثة الحكومية والمنظمات المجتمعية. تعرف على المنظمات المختلفة التي تعمل على تلبية الاحتياجات المختلفة. الخطوة الثالثة: ضع في الحسبان مدى الضغط النفسي المترتب على حالة انتشار الوباء وأثر الصدمة على الأفراد والأسر والمجتمعات. تعامل بتعاطف وكرامة، حيث أن بعض المجتمعات ترى أن إصابتها بكوفيد-19 هي وصمة عار، بينما تعاني آثار الصدمات الناجمة عن فقدان عزيز أو قريب أو وظيفة أو مورد رزق. جدير بالإشارة أن هناك دورة تدريبية بسيطة عبر الإنترنت حول تقديم الإسعافات الأولية النفسية باللغتين الإنجليزية على موقع كورسيرا وباللغة العربية في المركز النفسي والاجتماعي التابع للجنة الدولية للصليب الأحمر. ستؤهلك تلك الدورة على الاستعداد للتواصل مع الأشخاص المعرضين للضغط الشديد. الخطوة الرابعة: عند تحديد الأفراد وسبل العيش الأكثر تضرراً، قدم دعماً قصير الأجل من خلال تقديم دعم نقدي غير مشروط حتى يتمكن الأشخاص من تلبية احتياجاتهم التي قد تكون مرتبطة أو غير مرتبطة بمعيشتهم. وهناك بديل آخر، وهو منح مبالغ نقدية بشروط كاستخدام النقود لسبب بعينه كشراء الطعام أو المواد الخام. إن المنح النقدية تعطي للأفراد والعائلات كرامة الاختيار وتساعد على إعادة فتح الأسواق المحلية. والحلول البديلة الأخرى هي توفير القسائم وكوبونات التسوق ولوازم العمل والوصول لمناطق آمنة يمكن ممارسة العمل بها. كيف يحقق هذا العمل تأثيراً طويل المدى؟ تزداد قدرة الناس على مواجهة الأزمات المستقبلية بزيادة دعمك لهم من خلال توفير التدريبات والمواد اللازمة لدعم استمرارية المهن التقليدية مثل النجارة والبناء وصنع الملابس والخياطة، وتعزيز المهارات المحلية، مما يضمن استمرارية الإنتاج الثقافي لمدة مستقبلية أطول. يمكنك المساعدة في تسويق منتجات الورش والمصانع بشكل أفضل عبر تقديم التدريب على محو الأمية الرقمية لمساعدة الأشخاص على استخدام منصات بسيطة عبر الإنترنت، وذلك لبيع منتجاتهم، كما أن ربطهم بالخطط الحكومية سيدعم فاعلية التسويق. ستساعد خطوة إنشاء منصات على الإنترنت للأسواق والحرف اليدوية والجولات الافتراضية للمواقع التراثية والمتاحف ودروس الفن الأدائية في إيصال أعمال أصحاب الحرف التقليدية إلى الناس. ما الاعتبارات التي يجب مراعاتها أثناء العمل مع المجتمعات المتضررة في حالات الطوارئ؟ أولاً، ضمان المشاركة وانتظام واستمرارية قنوات التواصل الثنائي تأتي على رأس متطلبات العمل. وضع قاعدة لا ضرر ولا ضرار صوب عينيك لتفادي تعريض الناس لمزيد من الأذى أو الضيق. التركيز أولاً على توفير القوت والاحتياجات الأساسية للعيش. عند التعامل مع فئات المجتمع الأكثر تضرراً، ضع في الحسبان المهن الثانوية والأنشطة الموسمية والمهرجانات والاحتفالات الدينية والمخاطر والصراعات الموجودة من قبل. تذكر أن الحق في المساعدة الكريمة ليس إحساناً. ثق في الناس وتذكر أنه في حالة الطوارئ يصعب معرفة وتحديد الصواب، لكن الإدراك والممارسة طريقك للتعلم.
Thank you, Mr. Tandon, for sharing this wonderful video. And it would be very meaningful for member cities to think about the livability of the World Heritage Cities. That's it for today's session. And tomorrow's session will be held under the topic of challenges and perspective of tourism in World Heritage Cities in era of COVID-19. If any participants from today would like to join, you are more than welcome to participate as a panel or an observer. We will have Ms. Hyeonju Park, the professor of Middlesex University, London, and Mr. Fergus McLaren as our presenter, and we will have 3 city reports, including Gyeongju, Denpasar, Indonesia, and 1 more city, Vigan, the Philippines. The Zoom link is the same, so you could use the same link to enter to the meeting at the exact same time. I truly, truly appreciate your participation to today's workshop, and I truly apologize for my first moderating, and I hope you see you all in the near future in the face-to-face. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Ms. Tandon. Thank you, Ms. Inanloo. Thank you, Mr. Vacha. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.